Hello and welcome. This is Nimir, and this is the fourth little video series of mental yoga using the mind to understand life and in order that we can live more happily, more peacefully, and more effectively. The first two videos looked at in the first case, the world revealed to our senses, the birds, the sky, the trees, nature and everything that happens around us. The second looked at our own bodies as something that we experience and how we experience, including even our brain. So from there we are passing from the physical, sensual world to the suprasensual, metaphysical world of thought. And to a certain extent emotion. So I'm going to treat them together even though they are quite separate. First we'll go with emotions. Emotions come upon us. They are like the weather that changes constantly. So we don't really create emotions. They come as a result of a reaction to what we perceive is happening in the world outside. We have, in the first two videos, shown that our bodies and the physical world and everything in it is imagination. So whatever is coming from outside is happening in us. That really should already change a lot of our emotional states, especially those related to fear and anxiety, also anger. The happy emotions also bubble up from within or come usually when we have absence of negative emotions. When we finally relax, there is a feeling of happiness. And I would say that the happy emotions, and by which I mean contentment, good feeling, are the natural state of each of us when we are not being conditioned by these appearances which we take for reality. And I don't mean, of course, the extreme emotions or the inebriations, caused by alcohol and by other drugs, although they are interesting in that they, as it were, cancel or change our perceptions of reality. So our emotions come upon us and they come through us somehow. They are quite mysterious. It's not quite like looking at a tree, looking at anger, for example, but because they course within us, it is not so easy to step back and see them, but it is quite possible. In fact, we are always the observer even of the conditions of our body. And here we're beginning to get close to this state, who we really are, called the observer. But as most, the current paradigm is to say, well, we are a body-mind, and the mind is the thinking aspect. We have to see, are we thought also? So what is thought? Well, I don't think there is thought without language. Now, we think with words. So depending on which language we use to express ourselves, we use that one. We think with language, yet often thought thinks us. In other words, our thoughts run away with themselves, and we constantly think in habitual or programmed kind of ways. Especially, again, the problem is our negative thinking, our anxieties, preoccupations, defensive thinking, envious thinking, things that create suffering for us, guilt, crow in a tree. So, if we think about thinking, it can be likened to writing on on a blackboard or writing on a whiteboard. We create the words in our mind, just as I'm doing now. In this case, I'm also speaking them, but we create them and they are there even when we are thinking. They have a presence. Now, there's always, in all of this kind of writing, whether you are drawing your finger in the sand or carving into a rock or painting in a cave or writing on a piece of paper or typing in code, two things are always present. There is the mark that you make, the letter, the form, the shape, and the background upon which you make it. So the first writings were written on clay tablets. Now, the presence of the background makes possible the language and thought. So whilst, as we read a book, we pay attention to the letters in black normally, and we consider that everything of is important is the letters, we never see or we never notice the white screen or the white page. Yet, if there is no white page, there can be no writing, no book, no letters. Or the same is to move into the world of sound. If we are not seeing our thoughts, we are hearing our thoughts going away, continuously in our minds. Again, there is no silence. If there is no silence, there can be no sound. We pick out the sounds. You can pick out the sound of my voice and identify the letters because of the silence in which they occur. So the spaces between words give the word their power. So thought is a creative process which often becomes automatic and habitual and quite often detrimental to the quality of life. We worry. It is a program. Sometimes it is necessary. If we are engaged in a course which is causing us danger, then thinking about it is the right thing. But not if there is no danger, still worrying about an unknown tomorrow, or being consumed by thoughts based on emotions. So, although thought is useful, two things must be clear. One, in between every thought and the next, there is something. And before you were thinking, you were. Before you thought, you were. And two, there is a person, a something that is thinking, the thinker and the thought. So these are going on in everybody all the time. Thought is certainly going on, but few people examine thought and control thought. And here we get closer to yoga. Yoga is defined in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, right at the beginning, very clearly. Yoga is the stilling of thought, or the stilling of the patterns of mind, or the stilling of the turnings of thought. So mental activity is mostly thought. It needs to be stilled. So you need to erase everything you know about yourself and see what's left. Everything you think about yourself, everything you can describe about yourself. You are not thought, you are the thinker of thought. And when you control thought through meditation, then you have a greater chance of realizing who you really are. And this is key, because up till now, we could still be, as it were, entranced, captivated by thought, and that is, forgive me, philosophers, Descartes, cogito, ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. But he was one who never asked himself who is thinking. He assumed that he is thought, or looked in between the space of cogito and ergo. What is between? In the English language, I am is the clearest affirmation that you exist. But if you go closely and look between I and am, is your existence less because you're in that space? No, I would say it's probably even more. So already we've, as it were, pulled apart the illusion that the world exists there as it appears to exist. No, that appearances are true. The world outside is created by our imagination. Our own body and our brain is created by imagination. Even our thoughts, in which we express or think is our most intimate true self, is not the case. They come and they go. They can be ordered. They can be cleaned. It's rather like training a dog, you know. And this is a very, very important part of yoga, which is to control thought through meditation, which we'll be going through into the next video. So again, I ask you please to chew on this, to digest it, to test it, to be convinced in your own way that what I'm saying is true, and allow it to sink in and percolate into your view of the world, even though it's very, very different to what is the standard view of the world. But that didn't stop Copernicus, and it didn't stop Newton, and it didn't stop Einstein, and it doesn't stop us. No, yoga is revolutionary. And maybe, I hope you're beginning to see it. Thank you, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.